Hello and welcome back to another episode of Myths of Ace. Still really hard to say and I regret calling it that. If you didn't know, Myths of Ace is a series where I take 3 misconceptions about asexuality and talk about why they are misconceptions, what is wrong about them, and kind of try to debunk them. There have been, I believe, 4 other videos in this series, so I will leave a link down in the description for the rest of those videos, and there will also be a link in the end card of the video. So if that does interest you to look at the others, then feel free to check them out. But otherwise, let's get started. The misconceptions that we are doing today are that aces can't love, or they can't be in relationships. Aces don't have genitals, or their genitalia doesn't function properly. And aces are against sex in some way. So, hopefully we all know why these are wrong, but if you don't, then let's get into it. And today we have a very special addition to Myths of Ace. Instead of my usual just debunking of these misconceptions, I will be using
Sword Smiting Aphobia
to smite the misconceptions. So I hope you're excited for that. Let's get to some smiting. So first we start with aces cannot love / cannot be in relationships. I believe the reason this misconception comes about is that people conflate asexuality with aromanticism, and even if they do that, there is a misconception there. But let's cover asexuality first. Asexuality is defined by a lack of sexual attraction, and in the asexual community it is common to split attraction up into different types of attraction. For example, the main 2 are romantic and sexual attraction. People can be asexual while also being alloromantic, which means not aromantic. So for example, I identify as homoromantic asexual, which means that I am romantically attracted to other men. So it is perfectly possible for someone who is alloromantic but asexual to want to be in a relationship and to pursue a relationship. And back to my other point, it is possible for an asexual person to be in a sexual relationship. So similarly, by extension, it is possible for an aromantic person to want to be in a romantic relationship. There can be many reasons for this. It could be companionship. It could be just because they enjoy it, even though they don't feel the romantic attraction. And similarly, relationships don't have to be romantic and or sexual if you don't want them to be. Society has this very strict view of what a relationship should be, which includes romantic and sexual elements, whereas it is perfectly possible to have a committed platonic relationship, also commonly known as a QPR or a queer platonic relationship. I hope that covered it all. That was both a misconception for aromanticism and asexuality. So myths of our races today. And on top of that, when we talk about love, there are many types of love. You could have familial love, love for a friend, love for a partner, love for an object. It is important to recognize that just because someone isn't interested in romantic or sexual love, it doesn't mean that they don't love and they don't feel those feelings for other people or in different circumstances.
Spite.
Number 2 on the list is aces don't have genitalia, or their genitalia just doesn't function in some way, the way that it is supposed to function. Now, I really hope people don't actually believe this, because it's kind of ridiculous. Asexuality is a sexual orientation, and like other sexual orientations, it is not a physical thing. It is inherent to a person, it is a part of their self that is completely natural, but it doesn't manifest on the physical body. Saying that aces don't have genitals is like saying that a gay person has specific gay genitals. Like, they're born with different genitals that make them able to have gay sex. That's obviously not how it works. People are people. Biologically, we are born the same. Asexuality is not a cause for someone being physically different, if that makes sense. And as for genitalia that we do have functioning correctly, this might be people thinking that aces won't be able to be aroused in the same way that other people can. This is not true either. So arousal is a process that happens in the body when it sees something which it associates with sex, and it gets prepared for sex, basically. And this is just a biological function that will happen regardless of your internal workings, regardless of what you feel, regardless of what you're thinking at the moment. If your brain associates something with sex, it will most often become aroused in some way. Trigger warning for I'll talk about rape in a second. I'll put a timestamp somewhere. But in cases of sexual abuse, people can become aroused, even though they are obviously not comfortable with the situation that they're in. And I'm not trying to compare asexuality to rape, but if in the extreme case of rape, people can be aroused, get physically aroused, and show those things happen, then it is far from a stretch to say that asexual people not feeling sexual attraction can get aroused.
Smite!
So now on to the final misconception, and that is aces are anti-sex, or that they dislike sex in some way, and that's the reason why they're not interested in having it. This, I guess, is conflating attitudes towards sex and sexuality with sexual orientation. So they're two completely separate things. Sexual orientation, as we were discussing earlier, is something that is inherent to you. It is part of you. It can be fluid in cases, but otherwise it's not possible to change. It's part of your nature as a person. Whereas if we're talking about attitudes towards sex, this is something that is a conscious decision. It's something you learn. And this can be because of environmental factors. It could be because your own preferences, your personality, the people you're around. There are many environmental factors which may factor into your attitude towards sex. Cultural reasons too, the kind of society that you grew up in. This can range from being sex negative to sex positive, and anything in between. And the important thing in this topic is that aces can be anywhere on the spectrum between sex negative and sex positive. That can be aces who, even though they don't want to be involved in sex themselves, are perfectly happy talking about sex and are perfectly positive about sex and sexuality and talking about that and masturbation and porn and all these things that are encompassed under the large umbrella that is sex. And there is really no connection between your sex positivity or lack thereof and your orientation. However, it is worth noting that if someone is turned off from sex or not interested in sex because of their asexuality, it could be more likely that they are less sex positive. But that is a personal thing, and it isn't indicative of the orientation as a whole or the community as a whole.
Smite!
So I hope that clears up some misconceptions about asexuality and aromanticism in this video. If you have any other misconceptions about asexuality and or aromanticism and or any orientation on the RONA spectrums, then feel free to leave them in the comments down below. I'm always happy to do more of these videos. I have more ideas up my metaphorical sleeve because there isn't much space in these sleeves. And of course, as always, if you think that I said something incorrectly or you would like to add something to the discussion, feel free to put that down in the comments down below as well. I am always open to criticism. Otherwise, if you enjoyed this video, then please leave a like. I post videos every Saturday, so if you want to see more, then feel free to subscribe. That is all I have to say today. Have a wonderful day, and I shall see you next time. So, society has this very strict view of what a relationship should... Number 2 on the list is